Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining my breakout. Hopefully this morning's activities were full of information for you and you're having a good show. My name is Teresa Larkin and I lead our UCAS product marketing team here at Zoom. So today I'm going to talk about how to improve seller performance and in turn customer experience and how some of Zoom's latest innovations can help you. Today's world is an always-on world. Customers have more ways than ever to give you feedback and criticism. Between social media, review sites, and daily interactions, customers' voices are louder than ever. And same with the employee side. We have choices, and now our voices are louder than ever. And so it's really important that you think through your total experience, from the start all the way to the end. And really at the end of the day, customer support is just one piece of that. You really have to think through every interaction from the beginning of the entrance to your website, all the way through sales and to support. And if you don't have happy employees, then they're not going to be proud to come to work every day and support your customers. So it's really important that you think through that in complete experience. Let me give you an example. These two examples are very similar in the work streams that I went through, but had very different outcomes. And I want you to think about what are some examples recently that you've had with businesses that have made you decide that I no longer want to do business with them? So my first example is a car dealership. I bought a car recently. I don't necessarily recommend that you buy a car right now. Prices are a lot, but the whole buying process has changed. 10 years ago when I bought my last car, I was in the dealership for 4 hours. I was searching for a car for months. And now they've been able to streamline that down to an hour and a half. So from this new experience, I mean, it was a learning curve for me, I won't lie, but I did enjoy it at the end of the day, when normally I kind of dreaded going to buy a new car. And the reason why is I was able to go online, state exactly the car that I was looking for. And from there, they were able to text me, schedule an appointment with the sales rep. And once I connected with the sales rep, all he had to do was confirm that the information was right. I didn't have to repeat myself. How many of us have gone through customer experience and you have to keep repeating yourself every time you talk to somebody? It's a pain and it's frustrating. We don't have time for that. But now once I had him on the phone, within 30 minutes, he was able to set expectations with me, how much it'll cost, what the interest rates might be. So everything from how I'm going to purchase it to my deposit to how I'm going to finance it. And after those 30 minutes, all I did was have to wait. Once the car was ready, I was able to go into the office, make sure that the car actually existed and do my due diligence before signing on the dotted line, but also was in and out within an hour. So in a total of an hour and a half, I was a brand new car owner. I didn't have all that nuances that I used to have in the car dealership before, and it really streamlined the process. Now, on the flip side, I was a subscriber to a service recently, and the service I loved. And unfortunately, I just had a terrible experience. So I signed up for the 6-month subscription. Wasn't certain if I was going to, redo the subscription the later year. But it turns out they opted me in automatically. There was some fine print I didn't see, and it was frustrating. I got an email from them alerting me that my subscription was going to kick off again, and I reached out via email saying, I do not want to subscribe to this anymore. I'd rather do a different model. That email never came, so I went online, and from there, I was able to chat with somebody and they told me it was under control. So I thought I did my due diligence and it was over. Well, sure enough, I checked my credit card statement and I was charged. So I call and explain to them the situation thinking it was just an error and we'll get this corrected. It wasn't. They intentionally knew that it was happening behind the scenes, told me I was supposed to go into this portal that I didn't even know exists to turn it off. And when I brought up the chat, they told me that their teams don't talk to one another. So whatever I had said in the chat is completely gone and has no relevance to the person on the phone. That disconnection between the employees and that communication was really what put me over the edge because I had already spent time on hold. I'd already spent time emailing, chatting. So all this time was wasted. And now I'm out hundreds of dollars for a subscription I don't even want, which is super unfortunate because this business I really did want to be a customer from. But to be honest, I'm no longer going to be a customer anymore. So both of those have very similar work streams from me going to chat, Zero.com, to human, and two very different experiences. And so I want you to think about how those workflows and when they're not frictionless, there is a huge disconnect, and therefore can really determine your customer experience. And so when you're thinking through your customer experience, I really want you to start thinking about every interaction and how they transition from one another. So if you have your leads coming through your website or a marketing event, what is that transition from the sales follow-up? Is your customers having to repeat themselves, or is the salesperson on the other side already know the information and they're just validating? Now, what is the sales experience like? If you don't close them on the sale, you don't have a customer. So it's really critical that you get that up front. And I think traditionally when we think of customer experience, we think of that support experience. And while that's a big part of it, we really have to think about all these different ways we communicate and connect. And if you can get that information fluid and transitioning from team to team to team, and making sure all your employees feel confident that they have the right information, then in turn, you'll have happy customers. And when we were looking at all the different ways that Zoom helps our employees and customer experiences, we're looking at the full scope. So, Zoom is known for our phone, meetings, chat, that UCaaS solution. We've really done a good job, transitioning on the employee experience, but as businesses transform even more, we're looking at the customer experience. And as we double clicked into how video is being used across the Zoom platform, we're finding that sellers are using it more and more to close deals. And so now that this pandemic has kind of shifted the way we work and interact with our customers, one of the learnings that we found between surveying our customers and third parties was that video actually closes more sales and also reduces the number of interactions. So going back to some of my examples, the one that frustrated me the most was the one that I was running around trying to get connected with them and had multiple touch points. The one I, actually thought was going to be a not so good experience turned out to be a really good experience because they streamlined the number of interactions. They closed me instantly because of that streamlined experience. And so we're looking at our travel policies and why we are traveling to have face-to-face interactions and finding that maybe we don't always have to. And granted, there is a time and a place for face-to-face interactions, but for the most part, a lot of things can be done over video. And now your sellers don't have to be traveling every week. They don't have to be missing their kids' soccer practice and can really stay engaged on the customer and what is best for them and delivering the best sales experience to them. And now as more sellers are using video to close deals, we're finding that now their managers and the sellers want to double click on some of those conversations. What's working, what's not? How can I be better and more articulate and listen to the customer? And so from there, we took our video recordings and said, what can we do for this buyer persona and really help our sales audiences, which is where Zoom IQ for Sales came up. So Zoom IQ for Sales is our first step into this conversational intelligence world. And we foresee this type of technology sprinkling across the Zoom platform to enable different use cases and personas. But for Zoom IQ, what you can do is take your meeting recordings and get tangible insights that at a snapshot now, you can digest and easily create actions on. Now you don't have to go and figure out, what is working and what is not manually. It does it for you. So it takes those conversations and really provides different insights depending on your role. So if you're a sales manager, it allows you to get better insights into what's working and what's not and how to spend your time. If you are a sales manager, you probably know it's hard to juggle a large team and be that mentor and coach you might want to be. And every seller is at a different level. Some might need more handholding than others. And how can those who are a little bit more further down in their sales career help those who are just beginning? How can you forecast better? You have so many tools in sales. How do you aggregate it all and have that holistic view? And understand what's working and what's not. Why are you losing out on some deals? And how can you do better? For sellers, being a presenter and having your pitch down, sometimes you might want to review it afterwards. How did I do? How did I come off? I think I did well. Did I? So these are the types of tools and insights that you can now get to automate the way you digest that information so you don't have to go back and listen to a 30-minute meeting, and also gives you that view into scoring and coaching opportunities. And I'll touch in on some of these features later. From a marketing enablement standpoint, you're able to replicate best practices. So if you have those strong performers, now you're going to be able to give them examples. And as a product marketer, I'm always wanting to get more insight that isn't anecdotal or subjective. I really want to know which of my messaging is working and what isn't, and how can I enable my sales teams better. So for sales managers, being able to take these analytics, take them from my Salesforce instance, merge them with my conversations, I can now quickly slice and dice and analyze in a variety of different ways. So through the analytics tab on our web portal, you can easily look by time, territory, different teams or sellers, or by deal size, deal stage. So there's a bunch of different ways you could filter this out depending on what your objectives are. Or if you're selling multiple products, like here in this example, you can see which features are top mentioned, which ones your customers are most interested in, and maybe you need to spend a little bit more time playing up the value on. And if your manager or CEO is asking how healthy is your funnel, now you can have a quick snapshot into not only taking it from your CRM opportunity information, but some of those sentiments that typically get lost in those data talking points. As a seller, right now, you have your transcriptions and meeting recordings, but you have to come through it or just see the highlights. Now we're taking that and extracting it, and we're providing you with actionable dashboards that allow you to see, was I talking too fast? Did I say a lot? Was I patient enough? Did I talk over my customer? How did I come across with the customer? Was I asking engaging questions? What was the sentiment? Was the tone? Was it a little feisty or was it positive? And really then can take that and iterate on it and continually improve. And with the transcription option, maybe you brought up a topic in the meeting that the customer got perked up about and you didn't really have that under your initial scope. They might suggest, hey, why don't you schedule a call on this topic next time? So those next steps automation now is pulling you through the sales cycle instead of you having to kind of use your gut reaction. For enablement teams, looking at the competition mentioned, doing a better job with win-loss analysis. Maybe you have a reliance on your sellers to provide you with that feedback, what's working, what's not. It's very manual. Maybe they're creating slides on it or information, or you're just not getting it at all. Now you can look and see what are the top competition, what is being mentioned, and how are those conversations shaping out to be. Maybe you're finding with one competition, this one message is really sealing the deal, and now you can replicate that and explain that to your sellers. Or maybe you're finding out you thought you had a really good positioning and messaging going out, and you just missed the mark. So now you can learn how to evaluate and position it slightly different that is more resonating. And then as an enablement side, when you onboard new sellers, you're having to take, days, maybe weeks to onboard them. Now you can take little snippets of recordings and create little playlists by themes so that they can get little chunks of information and trainings. And as humans, it's hard to digest a lot at once. So now they can kind of go back and reevaluate, now that I have a better sense of how things are around here, now this is a good time to have, a little better vision. Now I have my feet on the ground a little bit more. Let me review this playlist. And it gives a way to show your top, performers a good coaching mentality. Now here's some best practices for the rest of the team to showcase. So one of the things I get asked about from sales managers is, I really see the value in this tool, but what happens if my sellers don't get on board and the value kind of depletes itself if I'm not getting that data? And my recommendation for you is I get it. And I really think that you need to think about this as the team and the business objectives and not the individual objectives. So if you keep it positive versus all about that individual, they will have a better understanding that this isn't just about their performance, it's about the company-wide objectives. And so when you take that, it eliminates kind of those eyeball feeling. You don't want, and nobody wants that feeling that you're being watched or micromanaged, and they're not going to be the best deliverer as they could be. So as a seller, if they know that they're being watched, they might be a little nervous on the sales call. That's not the customer experience you want. And so you really should make it about that holistic objective. And lead by example. As a manager, create snippets of yourself showing best practices. Do the recordings as well, so they know that you're in it together. And making sure that you're not using it as a consequential thing. Make it positive. They don't want to think that their job is on the line just because you're watching their conversations now. And I recommend that you take it one step at a time. If you go all in, it's going to be a huge culture change at times. And so make sure that you're thinking of it individually in baby steps. So for instance, I'm a sales manager. I asked my team to start using it and using it individually. So just use it post-sales call, take a time to review and see what your learnings are, and then gradually increase into providing feedback yourself. And so by doing this, you'll be able to not only showcase the value in it, you'll gain trust by it, but then by the time you come to give them feedback and some coaching, they'll be more accustomed to it. So some key takeaways. First off, customer experience really starts at that first interaction. Think through the entire customer experience from start to finish, and know that it's important to have that seamless handoff from marketing to sales all the way to customer support if you truly want customers to have for life. And know that the sales experience is just as important as your customer experience. And when implementing these tools, stay positive and start small. Taking those baby steps will change your culture over time and gain trust and confidence that these tools are only in their best interest. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and open it up to any questions. One of the things that I want to say, it is an add-on for Zoom meetings. So if you are a Zoom meetings paid customer right now, it is a great opportunity to start having this conversation to see how you can expand your Zoom meetings capability. It is a small add-on, so contact either your Zoom representative, or you can go to zoom.us/IQ, or you can go to our homepage and see it right on the banner there and fill out the form for more information. The other thing I'm getting asked about is, you mentioned that this is just the beginning for Zoom IQ. What can I do to expand it? What is Zoom looking at? What is the next iteration of this? And so one of the things that we are looking at is enhancing our phone capabilities with this. So stay tuned for more. And then we're looking at, like I said, other use cases. So perhaps customer experience in the contact center world or in events. So keep your eyes on this. You'll see Zoom IQ kind of popping around, but Zoom IQ for Sales is this product that I talked about here today. And Zoom IQ is kind of that underlying umbrella term for our conversation intelligence capability. What does it do during the Zoom call? Good question. So this actually is a post-meeting solution at this time. We are going to be continually evolving. If you're a customer here at Zoom, we innovate fast. So we're looking at, continually cranking out new features for this solution. So make sure you're following along on the release notes or our blog as we get into the more real time. So as I'm presenting right now, telling me that I might be mumbling or talking too fast, bringing those post-meeting, engagement scores and stats into that in-meetings experience. How about using this for very small startups, or is this really for larger companies? Actually, I think small startups are the perfect fit for this, because you're the ones that are growing fast, thinking about how can we get leap years ahead of the larger ones who've been around for a while. So we see this as a competitive advantage for you as you escalate, as you really grow those teams. You're probably a little short-staffed, a little slim right now. This can help you expedite, especially as those sales managers want to be that coach and mentor. So use it as a tool in your advantage. And I really think that, it's a very competitive solution for you. So be sure to check it out. Recordings and sharing. How does this work with all the different privacy laws? Good question. This is a global product. First off, it is only available in English at this time. So the speaker must speak English for it to be, useful with those insights. We'll be sure to keep you posted if it does evolve into other languages. It is a roadmap item. In regards to privacy, we follow our standard privacy and security standards. So be sure to check out our security and privacy page. It's the same way with the Zoom meetings, recordings, and highlights that we have today. We apply the same thing to this solution. And then with Europe, we want to make sure that you are comfortable with the different data center options. We do offer the ability to choose where your data is residing. So make sure if you are, in Europe, you are working with us and making sure you have your settings so that it's running through the data center that you prefer. Any other questions? What is it called exactly as an add-on? It'll be called Zoom IQ for Sales. and that'll be an add-on SKU to your existing paid meetings license. So you have to have cloud storage for this to work, as it is taking those recordings from the cloud storage and then creating those insights on it. Does the other person see that I'm using Zoom IQ? Is it like the recording has started? Good question. Yes, we want to make sure that we aren't, springing thing on anybody. So just like our recordings today, a similar caption will appear, and then the person on the other end needs to consent to it so that the meeting will, continue on with that. If they don't, then it won't have it enabled, and you could choose, just to have a normal meeting without it being recorded with the sales insights. Any other questions? Will it work for camera off as well? Yes, it's more about the cloud recording. So it's taking the recording and the conversation component of it. So right now, if I have some attendees that are a little bit shy, that's fine. It will still work with the actual recordings of the vocal. What is the pricing? As an add-on, we're starting around $79, depending on seat size and what you have today. So again, I would recommend you have a conversation with your sales representative from Zoom, and we can figure out the right price point for you. All right, well, I hope that you found this really valuable. I've been working hard on this product, so I'm very excited to launch it here for you all today.